Just and truth. It's very important. So we can speak. Yeah.
So we consider you a frequent user, someone who comes to the library a lot and use many of the services. Would you say you're a frequent user?
I can say he was a little, let me find. He used a very improper question when we met, asking me what I'm doing by that time, what I was doing by that time, because I could answer him, it's none of his business.
That's true. That's true for any question we ask.
I think some people are doing some research and they are interested to see what people are doing on specific times of the days and so on. Let me tell you, when I was 13, I finished the library for children in a big town. I finished reading when I was 13.
Okay.
It was in Ploiești, it's a big town. I was born in Ploiești, it's a big town near Bucharest. And that's the place of my birth and the place where I graduated I used to read a book on a day,
Yeah.
like a child. You're not allowed to go to the adults' library only after in, but because I finished, because I took book by book from the shelves, they allowed me to go to the adults. My education was a lot of sport, and I was very busy, with the sports. I was very tired, and reading was very relaxing for me.
So then you've always used the library since you were young,
Yes,
throughout.
since I was a child. So I read all the stories from all the countries in the world, and there are things like Jules Verne or and very many. So is the way I grew up. I used to read. When I was married and I have 3 children, there is not so much time for reading. And
But did you encourage your children to go to the library?
yes, but when the children were very small, I have 3 children. It was not so easy to take care of them and work every day and so on. But after I divorced, I retook my habit.
Yeah.
To write. And because I was interested, I was a person who read the communist press, even the communist press, because I was interested to see everything they had in the newspapers, and I worked like a receptionist, not like a receptionist, like a front office clerk.
Okay.
In an old hotel here. They punished me and they put me in an old hotel, so I had plenty of time to read. Because it was a shift of 18 hours.
Wow.
In the hotel, and I had plenty of time to read. And I read everything. And usually I read all the press and literature and newspapers and reviews and magazines and so on. That's why I don't see very well now and I have many problems. So I continue to do it.
How would you compare 20 or 30 years ago, the kinds of things you could get in quality of the items?
About what was translated in Romania from the universal literature, I don't think there are very many differences. Only what it was published after 19, because we had the great writers, we had translated in, but we didn't find what's the name of the new writer? She writes a lot of things. It's a woman. She writes a lot of very easy books and so on. I shall remember. But I could read Emily Bronte or Charlotte Bronte from English literature, or Thackeray, there's D'Urberville, and a lot of French writers. So I could read before too. What is new? We couldn't find in English or in French, we couldn't find books, original language.
Okay.
For using English, I was lucky because I graduated a very important school, a very important high school in Ploiești, a very old one, and all of them they were taught French or Russian. But I was in a special class with English and French, but we couldn't find books in English. I was also lucky. I had a Russian teacher. She married a university teacher in the Institute of Oil and Gas in Ploiești, And she used to bring from here books published in English, like Debbie Longlegs, for example. I read it in English when I was 14, but you couldn't find it in the library. There was only one publication in English. It was Morning Star from London, which I had to go to Bucharest once a month to buy, but it was only an adaptation, you know. There were not all the problems for the Morning Star. There was a selection of texts which were good in Romania. But for exercising my
English, it was something.
Yeah. It's different now. The name of the writer, which I don't, I cannot say is.
But it's more like popular literature.
Brown, Sandra Brown. If you heard about Sandra Brown, after 90, there were a lot of books signed Sandra Brown about love and Sandra Brown. But I think there is a team of writers which are just creating this book on computer. I cannot include her in the literature, actually. What's the difference about some magazines? And the difference is especially in the newspapers and newspapers and magazines. It's a big difference. But I cannot say they are very useful.
But there's more.
Speaking about the serious, not the tabloids, speaking about the serious press, they are much more better. Now the social problem and the problems in the state, more political problems than social problems. They don't have much interest for the social part, but they are very interested in politics. I can say a lot about their attitude regarding what events in Romania. They are not, they don't have the force to attack my personality, you know, which is doing wrong, like what I saw yesterday on TV that a reporter filmed Sarah Ferguson with bribe, you know. No, in Romania you cannot say like that. Even now, after 20 years, they are not interested to show this thing. They are not interested to dig in deeply and see why we are in this situation, what was wrong and so on. Because, I know why, because all the newspapers, they belong to very powerful and rich people which are not very clean probably. That's the problem, they cannot protect their owners, you know, their trusts, big trusts of or publishing house, and they cannot protect them. That's why I couldn't resist with my newspapers. Because I had so many problems after some weeks publishing, I began to have problems. Can you imagine there were people who used to go to the selling booths and telling to the seller not to sell my newspaper because they were going to prison.
Yeah, when were your papers published? When?
In March. It was the first private newspaper in Transylvania. It was a kind of newspaper. It was not my idea to call it the lizard. We say shopper as a lizard. I have an associate writer. I mean, it's a family of writers here. Man and the woman, both of them are writers. And it was my associate here to call it the lizard. But we started like in a way of laughing and criticism. You know what is Academia Cațavencu now? Academia Cațavencu took my idea of newspaper. And they made the newspaper like this, and they had much more money and much more possibilities. And they were in Bucharest, and that's why they succeeded. Our newspaper was joking about criticism,
right?
You know,
social commentary,
about
satire,
and so on. Yes, like speaking about election and about the studio where there was this free presidents in '90. We said the place where the presidents disappear. You know, like Bermuda Triangles and so on. We were laughing, and we laughed enough, especially me, because I was writing the most of the articles, and we had a lot of problems. We couldn't sell them in the because
you were publishing that. You were publishing that here or in Zalău? Here in Zalău.
Yeah. The problem it was we couldn't sell it because the distribution they belonged to a state.
The stores where you could sell it were state run,
yes,
so it was a problem.
And they could sell them or not. and there were people going there and telling them not to stop to sell my newspaper. And after the problem with the miners in June, a big problem with the miners here, I was the first one to write, stop it. No miners and nobody can substitute to the institution of the state. They're not allowed to go in the streets, and they're not allowed to beat the students, because those students, they're our children, actually. They have the right to say how the society can develop, and we have no rights for nobody to. After that, I have a lot of problems, and they asked me to come to the finances and to pay a big sum of money, such a big sum of money, like the value of 3 apartments. That's me.
So what do you think now when you see on the internet, and anybody can have a blog, put up for very little money, they can self-publish?
I'm not such specialist in computers, and I don't work on the internet only. I told you to read the press. I don't know what they are doing on their blogs also. I don't think that the socializing phenomena on computer is the right way for the human society.
Why not?
Because people have the proper contact, like we are speaking face to face. It's much more important and potential, because you see, I can see his mimics, his side, I can understand if he agrees or doesn't agree. It's a change of energy. There are very many other things very important when you have a contact, a direct contact. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that the writing press, the printed press on the newspaper will disappear, and we shall be some isolated persons in the back of a monitor and speaking with people we don't know, because they can tell you everything, not everything they feel. No, this is not good. It's better to have the contact.
What are you reading now?
What I'm reading now?
Yeah.
You mean the last time?
Yeah, I mean, in my family, we always had books around. We were always reading different things, and I was just curious to see what you read, what magazines, what newspapers. I know you come here a lot, but
this is not the only. This is only for newspapers and so on. There are some libraries. Look, I should tell you the period in my life about reading. When I was 18, I started with literature, belletristics, and so on, and policiers and that. After 22, I began with the poetry, and I read everything, all the poets I could find. Mm-hmm. After 32, I began with philosophy, and so I read many philosophers and some other things. And the new romans, they could bring like Umberto Eco, the name of the roses. They began to appear here, like, new kind of literature imported from some other parts. And in the last 5 years, I reread some of the writers. When I say I read the writers, so like 2 summers ago, I took all the books from Mihail Sadoveanu, a very important Romanian writer, and I read all his books, because there are very big differences between what you understand when you are 18 and what you understand when you are 50.
And I also think there's a difference when you read an author one book after another, rather than read an author piecemeal.
Yes.
In relationship.
When we are young, we read books. When you have an experience and you just know something about, you begin to know something about the world, you read writers. So, and what can I tell you?
Are you still writing? Do you still write, or not so much?
The last little book I published, it was religious poems, and I wrote 2 books in the last 2 years. One I broke it. Native pieces. One is home. They're very different from the people I'm publishing now, because I used to read the Bible very many times also. Every time I read is different. And what is important, when I was in America, I could read in English some types of Bible. The Jewish Bible, the Mormons Bible, the Pentecostals Bible. They were different. And I had to write it again and to think about and to pray. And I read about geography. I started in university in physics, so I had to work a little mathematics and physics of planet, and then many other things. I read all kinds of things.
Are there any bookstores that you like here? Are there any bookstores in the city that in Zalău that you like?
Bookstores.
There was a problem with the bookstore, so you used to have some 3 of them. And in the moment I published my last little book of religious story, there was a rich man from Zalău who bought all the library or the bookstores, and I couldn't have any collaboration with him, and I couldn't sell my book, so I mostly offer to my students, because that time I was English teacher in pedagogical high school. So they belong to a man, and you can see one is on Mihai Viteazu, and it is combined with electronical stuff. One is here, and there are many toys and very few books, and there we cannot speak about the bookstores here, about bookstores.
How about in Bucharest?
Yeah, you didn't ask me about my second newspaper.
Yes, I'm asking about yourself.
So after this experience, when I had to pay a lot of money, and I found myself with no job, with no money, and with a small job because I was divorced. It was very difficult for me, but in '94 I succeeded in Cluj-Napoca to make another newspaper. The name it was 7. It was appreciated like being the most aesthetical newspaper that time, because it was made on computer. It was the first newspaper in Cluj made on computer. There was another one article, but it was made in the old printing house. And this one, it was on computer. It cost me a lot of money, and it was the same. I published something about it was a mayor at that time, Funar in Cluj, and I didn't like the things he did. So he will give the authorization for the telling booths monthly. He obliged the people not to sell my newspapers. So for the second time, I lost a lot of money. I sent it in Zalău and in many other cities around, and when I came for the money, they were stuck here in a shop. They didn't sell my newspaper because they didn't like my ideas. So I lost for the second time a lot of money. I found myself with problems. Some other people, they succeeded to do newspapers. And was your new question?
I was just thinking, I was wondering, do you have any questions?
No, that's clear enough.
Do you have we're trying to, we'd like to interview some people in the city that use the library frequently, read a lot. And I was wondering if you had any names, any friends that might also read a lot and interested in poetry and journalism.
Know some people, of course, who are reading them, but they have a good library home.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some other methods of buying the books on mail, and they buy them by post,
Mm-hmm.
So, I cannot arrange their programs and their timetable, schedule their time to interview. I cannot connect you with them. They don't speak English. The relations are not so good. Find them and ask them to give you an interview. But there are here writers, readers.
I think
thank you so much for giving us more of your time. We appreciate it.
Yes, I can suggest you in the library. You can find their fishes, and you can find on computer their name and address, and you can see who are the readers. Yeah.
Do we have the names of her newspapers?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. There's a bathroom back here?
Are you going to stay more here? In Zalău?
Yeah, this week.
And a bit of next week.
So it's just as, let me ask you something now, because you asked me a lot of stuff.
Yes, please, feel free.
What do you use these interviews, and what is the reason of them?
Well, I'm a librarian and Jim's a professor, and so we've been working.
This is our third visit to Romania together?
Yeah, our third visit together. So I'm just interested in learning about libraries and how they're changing, and also how the profession is changing. And Jim brings students so they can just learn more about how information and technology or how things are in Romania.
I think it's okay now. As I know the libraries in America, which I started to know, we can say it's okay. We have a lot of possibilities now. We have the internet, we have the computers, so it's not so much different. But we don't have all the books you have in America. For example, I was trying to find, I shall not keep you too much in discussion. I tried to, I didn't find in Romanian the book of Mr. The Nobel Prize winner. Nu cheamă pe cea care a câștigat premiul Nobel.
Numele meu, Elie Wiesel.
Elie Wiesel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I found it in America, in Brooklyn Library. It was a small book, and they read it in English. Books about science, not only with the translation. I pleasantly work as a translator who translates some books from, but I don't know how to contact them. And
so much for taking
I wish you
giving
would
us
to like here in Romania and to come.
It's a wonderful place, so we're glad to meet more people. Thank you. Yeah, I don't want to